Well, folks, it's time to kick it old school. So you can feel cool. Give it to me, baby. Baby. Yeah.
Welcome back to another episode of Rob Sports Center, man. If you are a fan of old school basketball, then you are in the right place. As you can see by the title, man, I'm back with another Laimbeer reaction video. Now, this video is pretty much self-explanatory. You look at the title. This is Bill Laimbeer and Laimbeer secretly hating each other. You know how we do over here, man. I ain't gonna waste y'all time. We're gonna go ahead and get straight into it. But do me a favor before we get into this video, man. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Or if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe right now because it's gonna be a lit video. And I got more to come.
If you know one thing about Larry Bird's relationship with Bill Laimbeer, it's probably this.
And look, check this out. What made me come back and look at this is because I've been looking at the Last Dance documentary again, and then I was just looking at they was talking about how dirty Bill Laimbeer was, and then they showed some clips of him and Bird, and I was like, man, you know what? I gotta go really kind of look at the history between them two because I know that they had a couple scuffles. Which Bill Laimbeer had fights with everybody, but I know him. I know for sure that him and Larry Bird, I think, had like about 2 fights where they actually was, hitting each other.
When Laimbeer put a hard foul on Bird, and Bird threw a basketball at Laimbeer. That was a climactic moment, but by no means an isolated incident. It was part of a late 80s war for Eastern Conference dominance.
But look, check this out. I got a question for y'all too. Well, I know y'all seen it. So I was looking at an interview where Bird was talking about, the Pistons. And I forgot the other guy name he was like, I don't have no problem with him. He was like, the thing about it was that you knew for the most part that you was gonna get hit, but it wasn't as bad. He's like, the difference between him and Laimbeer tried to maim you. He was like, he'll stick his foot up under you whenever you're coming down from a jump shot or a rebound and purposely trying to twist your ankle. But Bird said that he gave him a taste of his own medicine and he did it to him, and then Laimbeer, he's like, he never had to worry about Laimbeer doing that to him again, but that was funny to me.
A Boston to Detroit power shift characterized by brilliance and brutality. But these two weren't just participants in a team rivalry. There was beef. Beef before the fight and more beef to come after it. Beef that persists decades later. Larry Bird and Bill Laimbeer do not like each other.
But I think a lot of people don't like Bill Laimbeer though, man. I don't think it's just Larry Bird.
Was an awesome era of college basketball in the state of Indiana. Bird and Laimbeer entered it from very different directions. Laimbeer was the 7-foot son of a wealthy manufacturing executive raised in the fancy suburbs of Chicago and LA. He played 4 years at Notre Dame simply because he could. Laimbeer helped the Irish reach their first Final Four in 1978, but he was set for life with little motivation to become a great pro player. That hardly changed when the Cleveland Cavaliers drafted him with the 65th pick in 1979. Bird was the 4th of 6 siblings who grew up poor in small-town Indiana. Bobby Knight recruited Bird to play at Indiana University, but the overwhelmed and homesick 17-year-old dropped out before his freshman season even began. Bird ended up enrolling at much smaller Indiana State and played so brilliantly there that the Boston Celtics drafted Bird 6th in 1978, even though he planned to stay for his senior year, in which the Sycamores made the 1979 NCAA Final versus Magic Johnson's Michigan State. Bird and Laimbeer didn't really cross paths in college, but Larry definitely knew about Bill, if only because Laimbeer was one of his mother Georgia's favorite players. Cool. What? So let's jump ahead to 1980.
Hold up. So Bill Laimbeer was one of Larry Bird's mom's favorite players. I know for sure that had to have changed when he touched the league after all he put her son through. Like, that's insane. I did not know that. The reason why I was looking how I was looking, if you I want to say like 2 minutes ago, was when they was talking about Bird and Laimbeer. I thought that they both was from Indiana. That's the reason why I was looking like that. But this surprised me even more. I didn't know that. That's my first time knowing that.
Bird was at this point already an era-defining superstar, already a 2-time champion with the Celtics, who'd wrested Eastern dominance back from the Sixers, then taken down the mighty Lakers in the '84 finals. Bird held reigning regular season and finals MVP over his friend and rival Magic. Larry was on top of the NBA. Laimbeer wasn't doing so badly for himself either. After a year abroad and a couple years with the miserable Cleveland Cavaliers, Bill had been traded to the Detroit Pistons, where he joined young superstar guard Isaiah Thomas, another product of Indiana college basketball, and, for what it's worth, another longtime favorite of Georgia Bird. Laimbeer had made a reputation for himself as a Piston.
So hold up.
He was a powerful defender.
So was Isaiah Thomas one of Larry Bird's mom's favorite players? Now, I might be wrong. I don't really recall seeing Isaiah Thomas do too much in terms of him and Larry Bird going back and forth. It was more so Laimbeer, but I could be wrong. But I do plan on doing some bad boy reactions too.
A deft outside shooter,
I'll find out eventually.
A regular all-star right alongside Bird. Dude was also dirty like a diaper. Laimbeer fouled, flopped, and whined. Bird already knew the dude's deal from moments like this one in 1982. Laimbeer wildly swinging his elbows, then exploding at the ref who called the foul. That was just a taste. Beginning in '85, Bird would get heavy, near-annual doses of the Bill Laimbeer experience. The Pistons and Celtics played 5 playoff series in 7 seasons, with Boston holding the
upper hand early
on, Detroit taking over at the end of the decade, and both submitting to Michael Jordan's Bulls in the early 90s. But yeah, that initial power struggle got rough. The Celtics crushed Detroit in Game 1 of the '85 Eastern semifinals. In the second half of what would be another Pistons loss in Game 2, a frustrated Laimbeer hit Bird with one elbow on a pump fake, then another one that left Larry bleeding from his chin. Bird immediately came the other way, demanded the ball from Ray Williams, then buried a jumper. And he wasn't done.
But the thing I would say, even looking at that, I can tell that it is real problems there, because the thing about it is, like, you're looking at the couple plays I just seen, Bird really didn't respond to him. He just took it and came on the other end and scored a bucket, but he's not responding to it. But the fact that Laimbeer, I'm assuming, obviously kept agitating, kept doing stuff, at some point, there's only so much that a person can take, especially when you feel that this person is deliberately trying to hurt me and take me away from my career, what I do to feed myself. Like, I mean, I understand the reaction that Bird, gave Laimbeer.
Despite the blood collecting on his jersey. In the fourth quarter, Bird scorched each of Laimbeer's teammates to reach 30 points. Then 34, 36.
That's how you kill him with success.
Bird finished with 42 points, 17 of them in the fourth quarter of that second victory. He was coy about the incidents that got him going. Yeah, the Pistons got away with a few elbows, but mostly it was the Celtics getting Larry the ball down low. He did note that Laimbeer wasn't playing well and seemed frustrated. Well, Big Bill turned around and dominated Game 3. He led Detroit with 27 points and got into it with Boston big man Robert Parrish. Bird had more to say this time. He trash-talked Laimbeer on the floor, suggesting Boston was going to sweep Detroit, and after the Pistons actually won Game 3, Bird and the Celtics accused the violent fouler of drawing fouls the other way by flopping like a fish out of water. Bird said refs favored Laimbeer, that he got all the calls. And he specified that the other Pistons were fine. It was Laimbeer and Laimbeer alone with whom the Celtics had a problem.
I figured.
Laimbeer said the accusations and mockery didn't bother him, but he fired back, calling the Celtics cocky. And this on the same day, reporters spied Bird impersonating Laimbeer on the practice court. Detroit took Game 4 to tie the series, and Laimbeer accosted the guy who predicted a Boston sweep and shouted, "Where's your broom now, guy?" From there, things cooled down a bit. Boston won the series in 6 games and went on to rematch the Lakers in the finals. Laimbeer was chastened and never messed with Larry and the Celtics again. Just kidding.
I know that was a lie.
Laimbeer a new fouling companion, Rick Mahorn, in the summer of '85.
That's his name.
Here are those
Mahorn.
two giving Larry a nice thump in
the so that's who Larry said. He said he didn't have a problem with Mahorn for the most part because it wasn't really malicious. But with Laimbeer, everything that he did was malicious. It was intent to actually hurt you. Not to take you out your game mentally, but to actually physically hurt you.
November of that year. When Larry found out Bill had been left off the '86 Eastern All-Star team after making it 3 straight years, he said, "Good, now I won't have to worry about him saying, 'Hi, Larry,' and me having to say, 'F you, Bill.'" Bird definitely wasn't shy about his feelings toward Laimbeer. When SI's Jack McCallum asked the Celtics about their foe in '86, Bill Walton wouldn't let his response be printed. Parrish said, "If you can't say something nice about someone, then don't say anything."
At all.
Bird delivered the blunt answer everyone else was withholding. "We don't like him that good." Well, Bird and friends were lucky to avoid his company that postseason. Detroit lost in the first round, so Boston didn't have to battle Laimbeer and the Pistons to win their way to the '86 championship. No such luck the next season. The Celtics and Pistons met in the 1987 Eastern Conference Finals, and it was not a cordial meeting. Not with the man Michael Jordan had just dubbed the NBA's dirtiest player involved. Just like in '85, the Celtics took care of the first two games at home. So just like in '85, Laimbeer made his presence felt in Game 3. The climax of a tense and violent Pistons victory arrived when Bird pump-faked Laimbeer into the air, and Laimbeer came down with a sledgehammer.
Oh, look at that.
Bird was not pleased and had to be pried off Laimbeer in a dog pile. So
He could have ended that man's career by the way that he pulled him down and pinned his legs underneath him. I was trying to show y'all, the camera can't go down that far. I'm trying to show you illustration, but you seen it, like, that's some dirt. Now that it's a difference between, trying to mentally get into a person's head, but also physically trying to hurt somebody. And what Laimbeer done was, it was all physically to hurt. It wasn't done to mentally take you away. It was done to physically take you away.
Larry found himself a long-range weapon and pegged Laimbeer with the basketball. Laimbeer got ejected for starting the fight. Bird got ejected for the ball throwing. The Pistons went on to win that game.
Oh, so he only got ejected for throwing a ball. He didn't even get ejected for fighting.
Bird was still fuming in the locker room. He reminded everyone of what MJ said, then went in on Laimbeer. He wished the refs would have just cleared the court and let them fight because Bill didn't want any part of Larry. Bird acknowledged that he was at fault for throwing the ball, but he wasn't intimidated and had to protect himself from someone like Laimbeer. The opposing recollection was vintage Laimbeer. I didn't do a thing. I was trying to break his fall, and Larry just came up swinging. I was victimized by my reputation.
Bull crap.
Bird wouldn't hear it. Sure, he wasn't trying to hurt me, and I was trying to throw the ball to the referee. Bill's face just got in the way. The beef ran more icy than hot in Game 4. Bird refused to shake Laimbeer's hand before the game, and even though a lineup shift put Bird on the...
I was looking at another Last Dance documentary, right? And it was another clip where I seen Bird fighting somebody. And I said, like, I'm sitting there watching The Last Dance, and I'm like, man, one thing I can say about Bird didn't back down from nobody. I don't give a damn how big you were, how tough you looked. Bird did not shy away from confrontation. And it's like, that on top of who he was as an athlete, it's just like makes him like, he's one of those guys, man. You know what I mean? Like, from these reactions, I've become a big fan of Bird.
Laimbeer is a defender. The two of them didn't really get into it. Laimbeer just quietly dominated the smaller Bird, and Detroit tied the series with a blowout victory at home. But afterward, Bird made clear he wasn't over the Game 3 incident. Laimbeer suggested he'd made snidey comments after the denied handshake in Game 4. And asked about said snidey comment, Bird repeated it as "go blank blank," which I guess doesn't stand for "go enjoy yourself," since Larry also said, "I don't like Bill Laimbeer, why should I shake his hand?" Laimbeer? Well, you never know until you try. This was very much Bill Laimbeer's MO. Incite conflict on the court, laugh it off and play dumb later. Anyway, back to Boston for Game 5. Laimbeer, who had just been fined $5,000 for the fight, sarcastically anticipated a warm reception after he'd knocked down the hero of Celtics fans. Bird was actually kind of wary. He didn't like Laimbeer, but he also didn't want someone to hurt him or anything like that. Bird was talking about the fans in that quote. He neglected to share that sentiment with his teammates. In Game 5, Bird made his point with another refused handshake. Bird's pal Robert Parrish emphasized that point with his hands. These claws to the face didn't even get a foul call, let alone a technical or objection. Anyway, in this pivotal Game 5, the basketball...
I gotta go back and look at them, but them was some crucial hammer fists, bro.
Game 5, Bird made his point with another refused handshake. Bird's pal Robert Parrish emphasized that point with his hands. These claws to the face didn't even get a foul call, let alone a technical or...
And the fact that's why I say, the players today age might be more athletic, but mentally they would not be able to, a lot of them, put it that way. I'm not going to say all, but a lot of them would not have been able to play back in that era. The fact that this man just got hammered fist to the ground, no foul call, no ejection happened, no fine, it's just like get up and go back on the other end. That's insane. Like, yeah, back then it was different.
Anyway, in this pivotal Game 5, the basketball eclipsed the beat. With just seconds left and the Pistons up 1, Bird got his shot blocked and the ball caromed out of bounds off the Celtics. As Isaiah Thomas hurried his inbound,
One of the most iconic moments.
Detroit had the win in hand. But then Bird engineered one of the most legendary plays and one of the best Johnny Most radio calls in Celtics history.
Now there's a steal by Bird. Underneath the knee, What a play by Bird.
That was the decisive play of the series. Parrish got suspended
Oh, they
for the
fined him.
attack that
Okay.
Bird deemed a good deed, and Boston lost Game 6 without him. But back home for Game 7, the Celtics won the series, thanks in part to Adrian Dantley and Vinnie Johnson cracking heads, which knocked Dantley out of the game. After the final buzzer, Laimbeer predictably sought Bird out for a handshake, and Bird just kind of walked through it. Larry remained clear at series end that his grudge wasn't going away. He always respected opponents, but believed Laimbeer had tried to hurt him. And Sidney Green, who left the Pistons after that season, told people that Laimbeer had premeditated an attempt to injure Bird. That storyline might have lingered if Dennis Rodman and Isaiah Thomas hadn't said some spicy stuff that commandeered everyone's attention. But even
Look,
still, Laimbeer had more
I'm
than
glad that
secured
just
his
popped
place
up
in the NBA.
because I'm finna go react to that video. I just seen that, so I'm glad that popped up. I'm finna go react to that video.
His Pistons would soon come to be known as the Bad Boys. 88 brought a conference finals rematch, and Laimbeer was certain that would be Detroit's year. He had the utmost confidence. Bird was like, I'm sure he's confident. I'm sure he was confident last year too. The 88 series was less explosive, but still cranky. Laimbeer hurt his shoulder early on, and Bird shot poorly all series long. They still got into it a bit, like this brief tangle during Game 2, but the extracurricular behavior was relatively tame early on. By Game 4, Bird was guarding Laimbeer again, which led to the usual shoving and the occasional technical, and also Laimbeer having a big scoring night. The Celtics won that game to tie the series, and Bird mocked Laimbeer a bit for passing up the final shot. But as Larry remained ice cold, the Pistons pulled away in Games 5 and 6 to seize the Eastern crown. In a move the Pistons would one day famously imitate, the bitter Celtics starters walked off the floor before the final buzzer commenced the Silver Dome celebration. That was the beginning of the end of an excellent Celtics era. Bird was too hurt to face the Pistons in the first round the following season. Detroit swept Boston that series and eventually swept the Lakers to win Laimbeer and company their first title in '89. Detroit repeated the following season while Boston once again bounced in the first round. The Celtics and Pistons met again in the '91 Eastern semifinals, but Bird was once again slowed by back injuries, and this was really just a battle to see who would become the Bulls' conference final victim. It was finally Jordan's time to wear the crown. MJ, by the way, was pretty clear in 1990 how he felt about Bird and Laimbeer's chippy play on the floor.
If you had 273 professional basketball players, you say who's the 30th player in the NBA. You know, I say 95% say Laimbeer or Larry Bird.
Granted, I think neither guy would deny this characterization. Laimbeer, for one, released a video game called Combat Basketball in 1991. He owned his reputation. Anyway, both guys' careers wound down in the early 90s, and fans were left to wonder whether their mutual distaste would cool in retirement. Well, when the Celtics retired Bird's jersey in 1993, Bob Costas joked that it was a perfect night even though Laimbeer couldn't attend. And Bird said, we'd probably hang him up there with my jersey. When Laimbeer contemplated his own retirement later that year, he said, I don't want to go out like Larry Bird, aka worn down and injured in his final game. But what about
That's nothing.
in the decades since retirement?
Man, that ain't nothing wrong with that. A warrior fights to the end. When you see lions, I'm a big wildlife guy. So when you see lions towards the end of the day, when they get hurt in war or they get older, they don't stop being lions. They be lions all the way up until they die. Same thing with athletes, same thing with warriors, same thing with competitors. We compete up until we can no longer go anymore. So if I feel that I still got some left in the tank, why would I suppress that? That right there is my foundation. That's who make me who I am. So I don't agree with Laimbeer on that one, but I know it was probably just some shade towards Larry Bird, you know, but
Both Bird and Laimbeer have stayed close to basketball, coaching, managing, and making media appearances. And when you make media appearances, this stuff comes up now and then. In 2008, Laimbeer was head coach of the WNBA's Detroit Shock. Bird was an executive for the Indiana Pacers, who were in the middle of a playoff drought. When the Shock visited Indianapolis to play the Fever, Laimbeer went on local radio. He got asked about Bird, and he answered. I can't find the audio, but the wonderful Indy Cornrows blog transcribed it at the time. Laimbeer said he didn't really pay attention to how the Pacers were doing, but also betrayed that he kinda did. When Bob Kravitz confirmed the Pacers hadn't been making the postseason, the guy who had coached the Shock to multiple rings was like, that would drive me nuts, I'd probably quit. After piling on a bit more about Bird's inability to lead Indiana to a title, Laimbeer was asked about staying in touch with Larry and said he just didn't care to. They didn't grow up together, they were never friends, so why hang out? Finally, Laimbeer was asked what he would do if Bird called him and offered him a job with the Pacers, and he guessed that entire premise was faulty. And while Bird did go on record in 2009 to say Laimbeer was a hell of a coach, I think Laimbeer guessed correctly. In 2013, Bird was interviewed by a fan and didn't sound like he'd forgiven Laimbeer for the way he played.
I never really ever liked Laimbeer in any social situation.
No.
Yeah.
And it's because he was a dirty player.
And Laimbeer isn't interested in what I guess is the post-playing version of trying to shake Bird's hand.
Larry Bird's sitting next to you right now. Would you talk to him? Would you have a conversation with him? What would you say?
I'd probably go to a different table.
So yeah, it's not
They
like
so-
they're
they
still
so- hey,
drawing blood
media
and throwing
messy, man.
basketballs, but beef between Bill Laimbeer and Larry Bird may never die. Laimbeer was a very good player who thrived on starting shit. He said it best, I don't fight, I agitate, then walk away. Well, it turns out one of the greatest players of all time wasn't just going to let him walk away. Not this guy, not that night in '87, not before, and not since. Years of playoff conflict that culminated in a power shift, all but guaranteed personal feuds. Of all those subplots, this is the one that never went away. Sometimes, when you agitate people, they stay agitated forever. Thanks a lot for watching Beef History.
But I had to come give that video to you guys. Like I said, I was looking at the Last Dance documentary and I seen Bird fighting on there, and I was like, man, you know what? I gotta go do a reaction to him and Bill Laimbeer, because I seen that video had popped up on my timeline once before. But as you guys can see, man, that is it for this video, man. If you did enjoy that video, man, this video, do me a big favor. Smash that thumbs up button. Also, if you're new to the crew, if you're new to the channel, this your first time on my videos, and you made it this far, go ahead and subscribe. If you've been watching my videos for months, years, and you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. And when you subscribe, make sure my post notification bell is on there where you be notified every time I upload, because just like the GOAT Drizzy Drake say, man, I got these videos coming back to back. I'll see y'all in the next video.